Hey, it's Isabelle with Be Wise Gardens, and today I want to talk about how we prune our fruit trees and how you can prune fruit trees if that's something that you want to get into. This is just going to be kind of the basics of it, and I highly encourage you to dive deeper into what you find interesting, and it can all be catered and curated to you and your style. So first off, here we have a beautiful apricot tree that we are forming into a open vase shape with 4 or more main branches that will be our structure and our fruiting branches. So it's beginning of March. That's pretty much the time that we prune fruit trees and prune a lot of different things that are still in their dormancy. They haven't broken their buds yet. They are not blooming. You can do pruning after bloom and summer pruning, but today I'm going to show you how to get the structure taken down for the most fruit and the healthiest trees. For fruit trees, the techniques are the same as any other kind of pruning. You want to make sure all your tools are clean, your gloves are clean, that they don't get contaminated, and you want to use a few different techniques for chopping off branches and twigs and whatnot so you don't create rot issues or any kind of pest or disease issues. We prune fruit trees to maximize the fruit yield. They typically aren't as ornamental as mature shade trees or ornamental Japanese maples or something where you really want a very nice elegant structure or a structure for shade. These guys are a structure for fruit and yield, and sometimes it can feel like we're damaging or taking a lot of material off. So I will show you from all of these water shoots and the growth from last year what we'll do. Typically, you only want to take off about 1/3 of the tree overall when you look at the canopy. And with these varieties in our own small and edible landscapes, we want to keep fruit trees to dwarf sizes. So when you're looking for a fruit tree, you want to find a dwarf or semi-dwarf fruit tree. What that means is that the cultivar and the type of fruit has been grafted onto a specific rootstock that keeps it smaller and more manageable. These trees, we actually mostly have semi-dwarf and a few dwarf, and so I try to keep them to 8 to 10 feet tall so that I get fruiting branches on the lower parts where it's easier for me to pick. As I look at this, it is like I said, a vase shape with 4 to 5 main branches that start about 2 feet from the base of the trunk. So I want those branches to be low, and I kind of want them always to go outward, not up. It will shoot off quite a lot of branches throughout the season that are leafing foliage branches, and those will always go up, and then those typically for most fruit trees mature to a fruiting branch if left to keep going. So how to tell between a fruiting bud and a leafing bud, foliage bud, is the size and the swell. So this whole branch has buds, as you can see. It is reddish, this one too, sort of a warm reddish color. Fruit trees will be slightly different as far as their color goes. These buds are flatter with a pointed bud versus a very new shoot with very rounded buds on the older wood. So this, since it came before these shoots, is older wood, and most fruit trees will fruit on 2-year or older wood. I could get rid of that one because it is quite weak looking versus keeping this old branch that is a lot thicker that has all these fruiting buds on it. Fruiting wood is older, comes before the new, see that color variation there? The new wood. These will be next year's fruit or the year after that. You always want to approach the tree and look for dead, damaged, or diseased branches first, so that clears it up, and then you can go after the structure of the tree. So when you're going after the structure, look at something you know needs to leave, like water sprouts that are crossing in the center or growing towards the center and not growing outward. You want to look at those and see what they're attached to. See if you don't just remove the one, you might be able to make a larger cut, like on this top here, make a larger cut, get rid of several that are growing inward. So always kind of follow the branch down to see where it is connected, find that union, such as this one right here, and see if those things need to be removed before making a whole bunch of tiny cuts and working your way down. What I like to do, especially if you have a small orchard and your trees you've been keeping small, it will always serve you so well if you stay on top of pruning and you start now in March and get everything prepped for the season, and then you can prune as needed or if it's needed in the summertime to keep them small. Tools that we use are typically a pair of bypass pruners that can chop up to a 1/2 inch branch. Sharp, always, it's going to always be much easier to have them be sharp, and a pruning saw. It can be folding, it can be permanent or longer than this or smaller than this. I really like this one. It's very flexible and the blade can be changed out when it's dull. So when I say clean tools, you can sanitize them in between each tree with rubbing alcohol wiped on the blade or a few parts of bleach to water, just to make sure that we don't transfer any diseases or blights or any kind of issues to the other trees that I'll be pruning. The other tools you can also use is a ladder or step stool to reach up a little bit higher, but again, if you manage to keep them small, you can even avoid using ladders. A pole saw can be really helpful. That can extend your reach quite a bit and be from the safety of the ground. I would also encourage a pair of loppers. Those are similar to this pruning saw, where you can do a larger size branch with more leverage and less time cutting. So a nice pair of sharp loppers. Those are getting sharpened today, so I do not have them with me. And gloves if you'd like. Eyewear if you'd like, so you don't get poked in the eyes. We'll show you what we do and we'll enjoy some sunshine. For a bushier tree and more fruiting wood eventually is your newest water sprouts, where the foliage is going to come out, the ones that are smaller and usually a different color. You want to cut them back by about 1/3 to 2/3 with a bud facing the right direction. So I looked on this twig here and found that this bud is going to be pointing downward, which will give me a bud pointing out versus something that will go straight up. I always want to be looking for stuff that will go out versus straight up. So chop that off right above the bud, not into the bud, not damaging the bud. This cut was done at a pretty flat angle, but trying to get it as close to this bark collar as possible, but not cutting into this bark collar. This is an old cut, and you can see where it's bulging out and healing over this cut here, because I didn't slice it right off with the branch. To avoid ripping your bark, you want to make 3 cuts. The first one is the undercut, which is the center cut there. The second cut that comes is the weight cut, which is this one, to take off the weight of the branch, and that will leave you with this little notch so that your bark doesn't rip, just like that. And the third cut is to clean it up. You make this cut and take it off right in front of the branch collar.